Most of us have probably heard the expression fake it till you make it. Implies tricking yourself into think that you're more confident than you are, or making yourself believe that you can be something before you're actually there. It's that I don't know, internal vote of confidence, imitating something before you actually can become that. I hate that expression, fake it till you make it. Because if you define the word fake, it means counterfeit, forgery, something that's not real, a fraud. In other words, faking it is deceptive. Faking it is lying. And even if it's just to yourself, you're lying to yourself. It's a hollow vote of confidence that truly doesn't exist. When I worked in the casino industry, a former colleague of mine had a story, and it is a good example of faking it until you make it gone wrong. They were hiring at this particular casino, and this guy had applied as a supervisor, supervise the person who's in the suits. They're watching the games, they're watching over the dealers, they're watching over the action. And they really needed a supervisor who could be a supervisor, as the expression goes, floor the game of craps. Craps is one of the most difficult games to learn to deal. It is one of the most difficult games to certainly learn to supervisor. Some casinos won't even allow supervisors to supervise the games unless they were first a dealer of the game. Anyway, in the interview process, the hiring people explained to this particular guy who was trying to get the job, saying, hey, we'd really like to hire you, but we're really looking for someone who can also floor the game of craps, or sit box, as they like to call it for slang. A box person is the supervisor who was sitting down, watching over the game and the action. Well, this guy's like, oh, no, I do know craps. I can sit box, yeah, I sit box. Yeah, I just forgot to put that on the application, that was one of the games I know. Yeah, I can sit box for sure, no problem. Okay, so they liked everything else about him. You know, he was a nice guy, good personality. He had a pretty good resume, so they decided to hire him. So whenever it came up, though, that they needed him to sit box, there was always a very clever excuse that he couldn't do it. Perhaps it was a restroom break. Perhaps it was, they need me over here, or whatever it was. As you can see where this is going, this guy did not know how to sit box. So he figured that being there, he'd go over, watch the game, ask some questions, and learn how to do it. In other words, fake it until he could make it. Well, this went on for a couple of months, and he would volunteer, oh, I can sit box, knowing when it was late at night, the game was going to close, so he could go sit down. Oh, we don't need you over there anymore. Yeah, the game's going to close. Ah, they got it. Oh, okay, yeah, just letting you, hey, I'm here for you. Well, one night, though, on a very busy night, the person who was sitting box got sick. And literally, there was no one else there who could go sit box except for this guy who said, hey, I can do this. Well, when he went to go sit down, in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, it was abundantly clear he had no idea what he was doing. He barely even knew the game. He was terminated the next day. And although he was actually a good supervisor on the other games, good personality, showed up on time, didn't call in, he was terminated because when you fake it and you're caught, your credibility is shot. It put into question everything he said in the past and everything he was going to say in the future. When you fake it until you make it, and then you get caught, you're done. I'm going to give an example of something better. Instead of faking it until you make it, be it until you feel it. Now, I know that's not as sexy, it doesn't rhyme as well, but it is different, and you're being it. You are actually stepping up and doing the things necessary along the way to become something before you actually get there. I'm going to use myself as an example. And it's not to say, hey, impress you with me, but to impress upon you there's a right way and a wrong way to get where you want to go. Be it until you feel it. Now, when I first started in the casino industry, I was starting my life over. That's for a different story as to why. But I was starting my life over, and I was in my mid 30s, and I had an opportunity to become a casino dealer. Went to the school, was top of my class, and I was dealing. And when you first become a casino dealer, you have to know blackjack, and you have to know what they call carnival games. Carnival games, if you've ever been in a casino, would be your 3-card poker, 4-card poker, Caribbean stud, let it ride, casino war. Those are considered carnival games. So the minimum requirement to be a casino dealer is to learn blackjack. And then once you pass blackjack school, or if you already maybe dealt blackjack and going to a new casino, you have to at least have blackjack, at least have carnival games. So I was brand new. Went to the school, passed, learned my blackjack, learned my carnival games. But a man who was in his 30s like me, I knew that I wanted to go higher, much higher. Now in the casino industry, if you think in terms of a pyramid, the very top of the table games department, which is the department that runs table games, is your vice president. Underneath your vice president, at least for our casino at the time, were 3 shift managers. Underneath that were 9 pit managers. So the managers occupy just 12 spots, and of course the VP at the top. Now underneath that, the pyramid gets pretty wide. Underneath those 12 managers were approximately 150 or so supervisors. Supervisors would be the same classification as the person with the example I just gave, who was sitting box, person who oversees craps, or all the games. Underneath that, we had approximately 500 dealers. We're actually a pretty big casino. So there's your pyramid. I was at the very bottom, a dealer. Now I wanted to get up into at least one of those 12 managerial spots. In fact, I wanted to run the department. My eyes were on the VP spot, but I knew to even get close to there, and even consider there, I had to be a manager first. So I got in there and I started dealing very, very well. Within a matter of a month, I was already moved to the high limit room. So you have to be considered a pretty high quality dealer, someone you can trust when you're dealing with people that are betting $10,000 a hand, sometimes $30,000 a hand. If they're spending $10,000 a hand, 3 hands apart, it can get a lot, big responsibility. So at about a year into dealing, I had also learned craps, by the way, which was a blast. I love dealing craps. So I could deal craps. I also learned how to deal roulette. And then I had blackjack. And then I also had the carnival games, every single one of them. A year in, my shift manager at the time came up to me and said, Claudio, hey, we would really like you to become a supervisor. You have the right demeanor, you have the right attitude, you have managerial experience in the past and other lines of work. We like what you have to do. We would like you, there's an opening coming up and we would like you to apply for it. And I looked at him and respectfully I said, well, I do want to become a supervisor, but to be perfectly frank with you, I want to be a manager. And I don't want to go become a supervisor unless I learn all the games to deal first, because I knew to be the best supervisor, I wanted to be one of the best dealers in every single game, because you can't go supervise a game you don't know nothing about. The other main games in the casino would be Baccarat. They call it mini Baccarat. Then they also have big Baccarat, which is usually in your high limit rooms, and Pai Gow poker. There are also Pai Gow tiles. At the time when I was a dealer, we didn't have that. So I told him I want to learn Baccarat, big Baccarat, and Pai Gow poker before I even consider wanting to become a supervisor. So he says, well, I'm a little disappointed that you not want to be a supervisor, but I respect that. He goes, I'll come back to you later. So another year goes by, and I did. I learned Baccarat, big Baccarat. I learned Pai Gow poker. I learned it all. So when the opportunity came for me to become a supervisor, I became a supervisor. So I was visualizing all that to happen. We talked about that last time about visualization. I had my eyes set on the prize. I visualized myself becoming a manager. But I did what I needed to do to get there. Now, while I was a supervisor, I knew I wanted to become a manager. So when the opportunity came for me to learn how to supervise the poker room, which although it is considered part of table games, it was independent. Not every supervisor could get in there. Only a certain shift did, and the shift I was on happened to have that opportunity. So when it came to an opportunity for me to learn how to supervise the poker room, I volunteered, learned how to do it. When we got Pai Gow tiles, even though I never had a chance to deal it because I was already a supervisor, I learned how to supervise that game. So I became a handful of supervisors in the casino that knew every single game in the casino, and one of only a smaller group of people that could actually also supervise the poker room. Then an opportunity came, a very good friend of mine, Darren, who at the time was what they call a rotation supervisor. They are the supervisor who assigns the dealers what games they're going to deal on that night. And he told me he was coming out of that role and that I should go in and apply, which I did. Now, also another opportunity for a supervisor is to do what's called the scheduling, where you actually create the schedule for the entire shift, what days they have off. It's a lot of work. Only a handful of people do it. Now, the opportunity came for me to get both of those things. Now, if I could get the scheduler and the rotation person, I knew, based on my own kind of investigation, that I would be the only supervisor of 150 that could floor everything in there, supervise all the games, that knew scheduling, that knew the rotation department, and could floor the poker room. But I had to change my prime days off of Sunday and Monday off. Very rare to get weekends off. So what do you think I did? Of course, I did it. I changed my days off to the middle of the week and I got in there. Here's the thing I did also. Remember, my eye is on being a manager, and this is the whole thing about being it until you feel it. There was a position coming up where a rare case where there was going to be a manager change. So I started asking the managers, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? Like 6 months ahead of time. Any little bit of information they would give me, I would soak it in. Now, every once in a while, on the graveyard shift, which is what I was, a manager would be by themselves on a slow night. So they would always ask for supervisors to volunteer to work a 6th day. And they would help you out and make it up for you at a different time. Whenever they asked for volunteer, my hand would go straight up and I would volunteer. But what I would ask for is say, hey, if I'm going to do this, instead of giving me an extra day off or anything like that, can I be what's called a stand-up pit manager for the night? And what that meant is that I would be the second manager on duty. I wouldn't handle certain responsibilities that had to be required by an actual manager, but I would handle some of the other ones. And it gave me an opportunity to get some hands-on managerial experience that a supervisor would never be able to get. Every single time they needed someone, I would ask for it. I took the initiative of saying, hey, I'll do this if you do this for me. And I asked one particular manager who said, sure, absolutely, I'd be happy to teach you. Is anyone else asking to do this? And she said, no. She goes, in fact, I have to pull teeth to get someone just to help me out. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Anytime you need that help, you ask me first if you don't mind, and I'll volunteer. All I ask is every time I do that, please help me to learn what it is you do. And she was so cool, and she did it every single time. So when the time came to apply for that managerial position that came, I knew that I could walk into that VP's office and say, I am the only one who knows everything in this casino. Here's the other thing I did, though, that no one knew about. Now, it was expensive to go to a casino management school. I didn't really have the money at the time, but I was able to find out exactly what the curriculum was, exactly what were the textbooks that were used in the casino management course out of Las Vegas. I bought the books, I read the books, I took all the quizzes. Every single opportunity I had, I would ask any of the managers, hey, so why do you do this? Why do you do that? I studied casino accounting. And here's another thing most people didn't know. For a brief time before I got into that side of the casino industry, I earned a living as a card counter in Vegas for 3 years. So I had this very unique background that put me into a unique position when it came time to, as an applicant, become a manager. So I asked my direct manager at the time, hey, what do I need to do? Is there anything else I need to do to make myself a strong candidate? And he's like, wow, he goes, you are definitely one of the top candidates. And I would ask him, hey, this is what I've been doing. I've been studying casino management. And he would ask me questions. All right, Claudio, let me give you some scenarios. So let's say you have a full table Each person is betting $10 a hand, and you've got 6 people at the table. So that's $60 in action at a hand. And over here, you have one guy at a table, but he's only betting $50 a hand. Which is more profitable to the casino and why? Boom, I would answer, well, the guy over here playing by himself at $50 a hand because more hands per hour. You're generating more profit in the casino industry. It's all about hands per hour. It's all about spins of that roulette wheel. It's all about throw of the dice. The more you get going, the more money you make. So he would help me, and I, boom, ask questions, boom, give answers. And he's like, you're on point. He goes, you know more about this than some of the managers that are here. Therein is what I'm talking about. I was being it until I feel it. I made sure as a supervisor, I already had the knowledge and the skill to the best of I could do, best of my ability as a manager before I even applied. Now, of course, I didn't know everything because my experience was limited, but I studied it. Here was my knock though. I said, well, what's the one knock on me? Why won't I get this job? Tell me, what can I prepare myself for when the VP asks me? He goes, it's your experience. I had only been in the business now for about 5 years, and to become a manager at 5 years was unheard of. Most people had 10 years of experience, 15 years of experience, 20 years of experience. He goes, so be prepared. He said, because that is what you're going to be called on. You're going to be told you don't have the experience. Am I all right? I was prepared. So we all kind of knew that this one woman was the person who was going to get the job. So I was prepared already. I knew to go in with a truckload of confidence, but confidence that was not faking it until I make it. It was not imitated confidence. It was not something that I was just pretending to be. I walked in there with real confidence because I was being it. I knew I was considered one of the top supervisors in that casino. I knew I was the only supervisor in that casino that knew everything. And I was probably the only person in that casino as a supervisor who had studied casino management, casino accounting, who was a card counter in the past, who knew all of these things that most supervisors don't take the time to know. So when I went into that interview and I told him, hey, I know everything. I know this. He asked questions, he gave answers. I expressed to him about how I studied casino management, just like my manager prepared me. He would give me scenarios and boom, I would fire them off. He'd make little notes. He goes, great. Oh, well, let me tell you about this. What about this kind of scenario? What if you were in a customer service situation? Boom, I already had the answers. Why? Because I had practiced them. I had moved them through my head and I had consulted with managers I had already worked for. Now, here's the thing. I was prepared because he said, well, Claudio, you are certainly one of our top candidates. But here's the thing. You've only been here 5 years and I'm just not sure you have the experience to be a manager. I said, well, I understand that, and I can't change how long I've been here. I said, but let me put it to you this way. At the time, LeBron James, I think he was like the hot rookie coming into the league of basketball, the NBA. And I said, well, do you want someone who's the hot rookie of the year, who's only been 5 years of experience? Or do you want someone who's been sitting on the bench for 10 or 15 years because they got experience, but their experience is crap? Or their experience is mediocre or average. I'm like, experience in and of itself doesn't mean anything if the experience is not that good. I said, my 5 years are some of the best 5 years I guarantee you've ever seen as a supervisor. And I reestablished, went over again all of my accolades. Accolades that I actually had, that I didn't fake. And he looked at me and goes, wow, you're full of confidence, are you? I'm like, I am. I said, because I know what I got. I know what I know. I said, I'll put my 5 years of experience against any of the other supervisors in here, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, or even 20 years. And I name dropped the person who we all knew was probably getting the job. And I said, I know this, this, and this. And that person doesn't even know that in their 20 years of experience. He kind of smirked at me, made a little note. He said, this was a great interview. We'll let you know. A couple of days go by. Guess who got the job? Not me. Of course, we all knew it was going to be hard. But here's the thing. My direct boss came up to me, my manager, and he says, Claudio, I don't know what you said in that interview, but he was really impressed. He's like, keep it up, keep your chin up, don't feel bad about not getting the job this time. And he goes, man, you never know. So I went up to the woman who got the job. I congratulated her and I said, hey, if there's anything you need, anything I can do to help, I want to be one of your best supervisors. So didn't burn a bridge. I congratulated her and I was there for her as a great supervisor. 5 months later, another position opened up that was a big surprise. I'm the one who got that job because I was being it until I was feeling it. Now, a lot of people were upset, like, oh, but Clyde only has 5 years of experience and blah, 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 blah. But they didn't know all the things I did to get there. So that's the difference between faking it until you're making it and being it until you feel it. If you want something bad enough, you cannot just visualize it. Now, don't get me wrong. We talked about this. Visualization is a fantastic tool. It can really motivate you and get you going into seeing what you want to become. But you cannot just visualize it and sit back and do nothing. You can't fake it and pretend because you're going to get called out on it at some point in time. Whatever it is you want to do, you got to put in the effort, be smart, work hard, work efficient, and go after with everything you got. So it's that combination of visualizing it, but actually doing it. And there's more than one way to get things done. I didn't have the money to go get my casino management degree or my certification, but I was fully capable of getting the same exact educational material that they were going to have anyway. I studied it myself. I quizzed myself. I'd ask people to help me. I still had the same knowledge, maybe without the piece of paper. So if you want something bad enough, start with your visualization, but then be it until you feel it. All right, this was long, I know it. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. I'm passionate about people going after what they want because I'm living, breathing proof it can be done. Again, this wasn't to say, hey, look at me, be impressed with me. I don't care about any of that. But to impress upon you, if you want something, you yourself are the one who controls it. You yourself are the one who has to go after it. Be strong, be well, be safe. And until next time, this is an absolute necessary. Cheers.